to me like weakness is a canvas for your strength. And my story isn't over, my story's just begun. Failure won't define me, that's what my Father does. Yes, failure won't define me, that's what my Father does. Ooh, lay your burdens down. Ooh, here in the Father's house, check your shame at the door, 'cause it ain't welcome anymore. Ooh, you're in the Father's house.
And it's so good to be here, right? Come on and say it. But life is not the end game, the journey's where you are. You never wanted perfect, you just wanted my heart. And the story isn't over if the story isn't good, 'cause failure's never final when the Father's in the room. Come on and say it out loud. Failure's never final when the Father's in the room. Ooh, lay your burdens down. Here in the Father's house, check the shame at the door, 'cause it ain't welcome anymore. Ooh, I say now, you're in the Father's house. Let me hear you say yeah, yeah. Come on, whoa, whoa. Say yeah, yeah. Oh, we're in the Father's house tonight, y'all. Come on, let loose.
Prodigals come home, the helpless find hope. Love is on the move when the Father's in the room. Prison doors spring wide, the death comes to life. Love is on the move when the Father's in the room. Miracles take place, cynicals find faith. Love is breaking through when the Father's in the room. Yeah, Jericho's walls are quaking, strongholds now are shaking. Love is breaking through when the Father's in the room. Yeah, love is breaking through when the Father's in the room. Ooh, lay your burdens down. Ooh, here in the Father's house, check the shame at the door, 'cause it ain't welcome anymore. Ooh, you're in the Father's house. Ooh, lay your burdens down. Ooh, in the Father's house, check your shame at the door, 'cause it ain't welcome anymore. Ooh, you're in the Father's
Oh, soul, are you weary and troubled? No light in the darkness you see. There's light for a look at the Savior, and life more abundant and free. So turn your eyes upon Jesus and look full in His wonderful face, and the things of earth will grow strangely dim in the light of His glory and grace. Oh Lord, what you've done. Through death into life everlasting, he passed and we follow him there. For us and no more hath dominion, for more than conquerors we are. So turn your eyes upon Jesus, the full in his wonderful face, and the things of earth will grow strangely dim in the light of his glory and grace. His word shall not fail you, he promised. Believe him and all will be well. Then go to a world that is dying, his perfect salvation to tell. Oh yes, come on and turn your eyes upon Jesus and look full in his wonderful face, and the things of earth will grow strangely dim in the light of his glory and grace. I said, in the light of his glory and grace. Yes, Lord, his glory and grace. Oh, his glory and grace.
You may have a seat. Welcome to New Spring Church. If you don't know who I am, I'm Dan Kubish. I'm the Senior Administration Pastor, and thank you, worship team, for leading us. I'm having a little hard time because I was backstage singing that, Turn Your Eyes Upon Jesus. And we're at the moment of our service on First Wednesday where we take communion together as a big bunch of believers in the family of God. And even if you're not a member of New Spring Church, man, you're a New Springer tonight. If you know Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior and you have accepted his free gift, we invite you to take communion with us. And now, if you're in the room and you don't have one of these little fancy cups, if you just raise your hand, one of our great guest services will make sure you have one. But as we look at communion, you know, it's one of the ordinances of the church. And it's when we look back and what Jesus did for us when he died on the cross, the shedding of his blood, that made the payment, made the way for us to have eternal life. That when we close our eyes in death on this earth, we will wake up in the glories of heaven, not based on anything else that we have done, all based on the blood of Jesus Christ. Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life, and no man comes to the Father but through me. There's only one way. Even though the world might tell you there's multiple ways to get to heaven, maybe you can be really, really good or give a lot of money or save a bunch of pets or dogs or cats. Jesus said, no, there's only one way, and it's believing that my blood that was shed on the cross was payment for your sins. And when Jesus hung, when Jesus hung on that cross, he had you in mind, and he had me in mind. And so we take this time to look back at that, but also we take the time now to look internally into our lives. And maybe there's something, maybe we have a bad attitude, maybe we were yelling at our wife on the way to church because we were late and we didn't get our favorite seat. Some of you, I think really you have your names engraved in some of your seats. I really do. That's awesome. You know, we're glad that you love New Spring. But maybe there's something that you have to get right in your life, you know, and maybe if it is your spouse, maybe you just reach out and kind of grab the hand and said, you know, sorry for what we went through before we got here. But we should have pure hearts before God when we take communion. And then the last thing we look forward. Look forward to the day that Jesus Christ comes back to rule and reign. He's not going to take sides, he's going to take over. And we look forward to that day. And that's what this time is. So if you have your cup, if you just open that top portion up with the little wafer in it, Jesus met with his disciples and he said, this is a representation of my body, my broken body that I gave for you. Eat it and remember what I will do for you. And then Jesus took the juice. This doesn't become Jesus' blood. This is a representation of Jesus' blood and what he did. Without the shedding of blood, there's no remission of sins. And so we celebrate that God sent his son to die for us. And Jesus said, take it and drink it, and this, you remember what I have done for you. Now, if you stand to your feet, we're going to sing some more. And I'm speaking tonight. Surprise! Yeah. You can start praying for me, all right? You can start praying for me. We're going to talk about gratitude. Gratitude. It's a big thing. I've been trying to learn it. And one of the ways, point number 7 of the message is going to be one of the ways we can show gratitude is by how we worship the God that created us. Amen. We take the breath that he puts in our lungs and we sing it back to him and saying, God, you are amazing. You are wonderful. The things that you have done for my life is flat out amazing. I can't thank you enough, and I'm not grateful enough for what you have done for me. So if you're one of these guys or gals in the audience and you'd like to put your hand in your pocket and drink your coffee or your water with the other, this is not worship. Worship is using the air that's in your lungs to sing out towards God and said, if I didn't have anything else but I just had you, it would be enough. Amen, Austin? Sing like you mean it.
Are you past the point of weary? Is your burden weighing heavy? Is it all too much to carry? About my Jesus, do you feel that empty feeling? 'Cause shame's done all it's stealing, and you're desperate for some healing. Let me tell you about my Jesus. Come on, you guys know it, let's sing it out. He makes a way where there ain't no way, rises up from an empty grave. Ain't no sinner that he can't save. Let me tell you about my Jesus. Grace is free, and the good news is I know that he can do for you what he's done. tell you about my Jesus. Oh, oh, come on, let's sing this out. He makes a way where there ain't no way. Rises up from an empty grave. Ain't no sinner that he can't save. Let me tell you about my Jesus. Come on. His love's strong and his grace is sweet. And the good news is I know that he can do for you what he's done for me. Let me tell you about my Jesus. Let my Jesus change your life. Hallelujah, let me hear you say hallelujah. Hallelujah, amen. Amen. Come on and lift it up tonight. We'll sing hallelujah. 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 Let my Jesus change your life. And he's gonna do it. He's gonna change your life. Ain't he faithful? He's gonna do it.
How many of you here tonight are ready to worship a God who's all powerful and mighty in our lives? We say, I count on one thing, yes. The same God who never fails will not fail me now. You won't fail me now in waiting. The same God who's never late is working all things out. You're working all things out. If you believe, then sing. Oh yes,
Lift you high in the Lord's valley. Yes, I will bless your name. Oh yes, I will sing for joy in my heart is every all mine.
you know we will.
Oh yes, I will.
Thank you, Lord, for what you're doing here tonight. He's still And that's okay, because there's days I just don't get it either. You gotta shake off whatever today brought with you, right? Shake off everything that isn't from our God for us today, right? The enemy was coming against you today. He's been coming against you. If you've been living for the King, the enemy's coming against you. Do you know? Do you know that we're in a spiritual battle? And our weapons are not weapons of this earth. And let me tell you about the joy of the Lord. You know what the enemy hates? He hates when he can't distract you. He hates when he can't bring you down. And you know what he loves? He loves getting you out of the fight. He loves making you think you got nothing. But let me tell you tonight, we have the power of our God who says that he is for us, not against us. So I just want you to shake off today, shake it off. Anything that wasn't from the Lord, shake it off. Come on, I want you to physically, come on, just kind of shake it off, all right? Because we're gonna revel in our Father. And our Father, he's a good Father. He wants his children to have every good and perfect thing. And we have that through Jesus Christ. Amen. Come on, make it fun for me. Make it fun for me. Come on, right? Everybody say, yes, I will.
Yes, I will.
Say, yes, I will.
Yes, I will.
Say, yes, I will.
Yes, I will.
Bless his name.
Bless his name.
Come on now, say, yes, I will.
Yes, I will.
Say, yes, I will.
Yes, I
Come
will.
on, say, yes, I will.
Yes, I will.
Bless his name now, sing it out with me now, say, yes, I will lift you high in the lowest valley. Yes, I will bless your name. You're worthy, Lord, oh yes, I will sing for joy when my heart is heavy for all my days. You said, come on, say it, for all my days. You said, now I want you to shout it out, for all my days. Oh God, yes, I will. There you go. He loves us. He loves us. He's for us. He wants to see his children giddy. Put that smile on your face, because you got something to smile about tonight. Jesus, the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords, is thinking about you. He loves you. We have to be grateful for what he's done. He is worthy of the praise that we have to bring. Everybody say amen. Amen. Thank you for worshiping with us. Y'all can have a seat. Woo!
Kick off fall at New Spring in the Park, an outdoor event that's free for all ages on Thursday, September 23rd at the Amphitheater in Andover Central Park. Family fun that both kids and adults will love will begin at 5 p.m. with food trucks, a petting zoo, face painting, carriage and wagon rides, and more. Then at 6:30, our concert featuring New Spring, Kansas worship will begin. We're pulling out all the stops, so make sure to bring your lawn chairs and come ready for an unforgettable night of fun. Get details at newspring.org/park.
Well, good morning or good evening. It's great to see you again. Wednesdays are always fun. Hey, we just ran the New Spring in the Park promo that's coming up. Pray for good weather, September 23rd. You know, this is an invest and an invite type thing that we're doing. It's just not to have us go out there and do our deal. We do it because we want other people to come to know the Lord and get involved with New Spring and get familiar with the New Spring. So it's a great way to invite your friends and families. Please do that. Some of the ways that you can help us is there's many invites back there at the guest services counter. There's even some bigger posters that you can hang up. There's even a 11 by 17 one that looks good. Doesn't that look good, everybody? Yes, it does. And we want you to use these. They don't do us any good sitting on the counter back there. We want you to invest and invite all your neighbors. But the thing that we have tonight, and we love for the the people here in the room that are experiencing First Wednesday. These are yard signs. We have a few hundred of those printed, and they're out there in the foyer. My wonderful wife, Debbie, if you never met her, she'll be back there. But if you would take some of these, and there's brackets for them so you can stab them in your grass. We don't want to put them any place that's illegal, so please don't do that. That won't help us at all. But if you're in a high traffic area, or we're concentrating, we're sending out 18,000 postcards to the zip code of 67002, 67230, and 67206, which are the neighborhood communities of Andover. And so if you live in a cul-de-sac, or hey, I have a business and it's on Andover Road, if you could take one of these and put it in there, we are trying to get as many people to come to get to know our Savior, Jesus Christ. And that's why we're doing concert in the park. So please, 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 afterwards do that. Now, you in the red hat right there, this is all yours. Congratulations. Can you come and get it? You make sure you put all those up, put that in your yard. Thank you. You can just put it on the floor there. That is great. The other thing I want to talk to you about is right behind me on the LED wall, and it's t-shirts. We have custom-made t-shirts that are $15 a piece. They are a walking billboard. That we designed them that way. If you want to know why there's so much, we want people to know where it is. Hey, good job. Yeah, but if you would help us, but tonight is the last night you can pre-order your t-shirts, and so, but there's a special going on. If you order 2 tonight, you can get them for 2 for $25, 1 for $15. And you can go to newspring.org/store for those of you watching online, or if you're in the room and you can't figure out how to use your cell phone, give it to your kid, they'll show you how it's done. But if not, go to the New Spring store, and Grace and her team is out there, and they'll get you pre-ordered. Now, here's the thing. Some of you have been asking, what can I do to help with New Spring in the Park? This is what you can do, what I just said. Those invites, the t-shirts. And if you're in the room and you have an extra $1,000 you don't know what to do with, and you want to buy a bunch of shirts for everybody else to wear, you can just tell Grace, and she'll just order that many more. But tonight will be the last night that we can pre-order. There'll be a few extra, but not a lot extra. But if everybody would just wear them. And the cool thing is, if you have a family of 4 or 5 and you can buy one for everyone, and you can go out to dinner to one of the restaurants, you'll get attention. All 4 of you walking in with the same shirt, people will ask you questions. And so that's what we want you to do. Please invest and invite in that. But it's tonight only, the 2 for $25. So get out your phones after the message, or be very sneaky during the message. Pretend like you're taking notes, or go to the store afterwards. Well, it was 1982 in January, and I lived in Sioux City, Iowa. Eventually, that's where I'll meet my wife, but it was before my wife came into the picture. And I was working at a radio station, and I would be a DJ during the day, and then there would be some times where we would broadcast basketball games and some other things for local schools in the area. And this one particular Christian school had gone to the Midwest Finals, and it was up in Owatonna, Minnesota, the land of the frozen chosen. And I was up there January of 1982, and the game was done. That team that I was broadcasting for ended up winning the Midwest Final, and they were going to the national championship. And it was a little bit of snow on the ground. It was like that 44-degree day in Minnesota. And the team that I traveled with, I would drive a car, and they would have a bus, a Greyhound bus that was owned by the school. And I knew the bus driver. His name was Ernie. And he said, "Hey, Dan, as soon as the game is over with, we need to get on the road. It looks like they're expecting a pretty heavy snow." And I said, okay, so we threw everything in the car, everything in the bus, and off we went, drove down I-35 got to 90, south Minnesota, and started to hang a right to go to Worthington, Minnesota. Then you take a left and go down to Sioux City, Iowa. And we just got out about probably 30 miles from Worthington on I-90, and all of a sudden it hit. It snowed. It was snowing 2 inches an hour. Winds were blowing 75 miles an hour. Wind chill was approaching 100 below zero. And woo, that's what I said. And Ernie, we had CB radios. For those of you who know what it was the cool cell phone back in 1982. And still used today by truckers. And they still come in handy once in a while. But anyway, I had borrowed Buick Park Avenue, but it was a diesel engine. And so Ernie was ahead of me driving the bus, and he said, Dan, it's getting really, really bad. The drifts are like 1 foot over the road. He said, make sure you just stay right on my bumper so we can get to Worthington, because we're going to stop there. We'll find a hotel for all these kids or whatever, but there was nothing between where we were and where Worthington was that we could tell, and it was snowing. And no sooner did he say that, probably a minute later, out of the corner of my eye, I see these headlights coming right towards me from an on-ramp, and it was a brown Chevy Citation, and went between me and the bus, and it just whoosh, and went right into the ditch. So I said, Ernie, there was a car that just is in the ditch. I think I need to stop and help him. And Ernie said, well, I got to keep going. He said, I'm going to lose my momentum if I just don't keep this bus rolling down the road. And so I got out, and I went down the ditch, just howling, opened the door, and here's a young gentleman from Iran, couldn't speak 2 words of English, was going to go to the University of Minnesota, and he had a lightweight jacket on, cowboy boots with no socks. And I said, hey, you need to come with me. And and so he got out and got in the front seat of the car, and we started to drive. But it was within probably 4 or 5 minutes that the snow was so thick on the highway, I couldn't go any farther. My car was still running, but I couldn't go any farther. And, I turned on the radio, and they said, hey, the blizzard's going to continue. This was about 7 o'clock at night. The blizzard will probably go until midnight at least. And we sat there, and pretty soon, as all you mechanics in the room know, when it gets minus 100 degrees, diesel fuel tends to gel up, and that's exactly what happened. And I still had battery powered, so every hour I could turn on the radio, but we had no heat. And pretty soon, the guy looked towards the guy, and he started to reach in his pocket, and he pulled out 2 green tea candles. And he handed them to me. And he pulled out a lighter, and he handed it to me. And we started to light those candles. And I really believe, besides God, that saved our life. We were in that car until the next morning at 6 a.m. The ice on the inside of our car was about 3.5 inches thick. And all of a sudden at 6 a.m., I heard this screeching sound next to us, and it was a snow plow. And I heard a guy come up the door and said, anybody in here? Oh, yeah, we're in here. And he took a crowbar and he pried the door open. And his name was Jack. Looked like Grizzly Adams. And he looked in and said, anybody want to ride? And believe you me, we got out of that car, got into this huge plow truck that the blade was taller than me. I mean, it was probably 9-10 foot tall. And he said, you need to buckle up really, really tight. He said, there's some hot chocolate there. I don't have any cups. You can drink it out of the thermos if you want. It was the best hot chocolate I've ever had in my life. But during that time, those 8-9 hours that we were freezing to death, I really thought as a 22-year-old I was going to die. And I took a little book like this that was in the car, and I started to write out my story. We didn't have cell phones. I couldn't call my mom and dad. And I would say, my name is Daniel John Kubish. I live in Sioux City, Iowa. My parents live in Augusta, Kansas. Here's their phone number. Here's their address. And I started to write down who I was so they could, contact, because I really thought, this is it. This is it. But as I was sitting there, I almost put it back in the car, into the pocket of the car, and I thought, no, just to keep us awake, I thought I got to do something. So I started to write everything I was thankful for and grateful for: my parents, my family, the people that have come along in my life, my job I had at the radio station, people to take chances on me. And I started to write that, and I got it all done, and I put it back in the glove box, and I thought, just in case. So back to the story, Jack picked us up. We were about 9 miles away from Worthington, and he said, you did the smart thing by staying in your car. He said, I have picked up 8 people that are dead because they thought they could get out and walk. Get to Worthington, and he dropped us off at the Holiday Inn. That's where the bus was, and the bus was glad to see us. And they had to go back and get the car and de-thaw it. It cost me hundreds of dollars to get it all working again, but I made it home safely. But that was in January, but from that day on, every January, I still think about that, but I was thinking as a young man, I really didn't say much to Jack. I just said thanks, jumped out of the truck, slammed the door. And so it was almost Thanksgiving, it was November. And I thought, I got to go tell him really how I feel about him. And so I got back in my car, drove the 125 miles back to Worthington. I called several times. I knew he worked for the Department of Transportation. And I said, I'm trying to find this guy. Well, does he owe you money? I said, no, he doesn't owe me money. I just want to thank him. And they said, well, he works part-time. You know, we're not getting a lot of snow, so he's not in the shop a lot. But if you want to come up, usually he works on a Wednesday or Thursday. And I went up there, and I got to meet Jack. And I said, Jack, you probably don't know who I am. But I said, I was one of the guys that you rescue on the road. And I said, I want to give you this. And I gave him that notebook with my story and how grateful I was because Jack's name was in that story. And, you know, I finished it up and I said, I want you to have it. I finished what I was thankful for, and I want you to have it. Last time I ever met Jack. Gratitude. There's a difference between gratitude and being thankful. And I'm going to try to decipher that. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not smart. I'm just passionate about gratitude because it has changed my life. I haven't accomplished it yet. I'm still working on it, and it's hard work. But gratitude, Billy Graham says gratitude is one of the greatest Christian virtues you could have. And ingratitude is one of the most vicious sins. But we don't talk about gratitude that often. How often do we talk to our kids? And our kids, in our environments, we have what we call the big idea. And virtually what the big idea is God's virtues, and we call them big ideas. And we say big ideas is something that happens inside you that changes the world around you. And gratitude can change you, and it can change the world around you. The difference between thankfulness and gratitude, thankfulness tends to be an automatic response, like for someone that holds the door open, thank you, for holding the door. Or, your favorite waiter brings your chimichanga and you say thank you. There's not much emotion attached to that. Gratefulness happens at a much deeper level and has feelings attached to it. It tends to be an emotional response to reflection on an occurrence or a series of occurrences that have made an impact in your life. Gratitude grows over time. Let me give you an example really quick. I have 5 kids, 14 grandkids. I love them all to death. And when we go out to eat, especially if we go out to eat at one big bunch, I am more than happy to pay for that meal. And when we leave, my grandkids are trained to come and say, thank you, Papa. And my kids, my adult kids, my daughter-in-laws and son-in-laws, they'll say, thanks for dinner tonight. And we all go home and go to bed. But Father's Day comes. And my kids don't just tell me thank you. They write me cards. They make me scrapbooks. They tell me, hey, thanks for the wisdom that you've given us. Thank you for taking us to church. Thanks for you and Mom showing what it is to have a godly marriage. That's gratitude. A lot of times, as Christians, we don't realize the power of gratitude. And so they have a connection of gratitude with the brain has been proven in several studies. Some great schools that I wouldn't be able to get into, Harvard, Berkeley, University of Michigan, University of Nebraska. I might be able to get into that one. Actually, I'm just teasing. Actually, I had a chance to kick for the Nebraska Cornhuskers as a high school student, and I turned it down. But anyway, don't cheer for that. I like Nebraska. But anyway, a lot of smart people have dove into the attitude of gratitude. And here's what, if you don't mind me reading this, let me just to read this. The moral judgments associated with the feelings of gratitude are dealt within the right anterior temporal cortex, the part of the brain that is linked to creating and preserving long-term memory by absorbing visual and verbal information. Gratitude can produce feelings of sheer joy and contentment. At a physiological level, this can be explained by the release of neurotransmitters and dopamine and serotonin. These are the 2 neurotransmitters responsible for the feel-good emotion. Whew, doesn't that make you tired? but that's what gratitude does to the brain. And so many studies have been done on the results and the benefits of gratitude. You might say, hey, Dan, what's the benefits? You're talking about this, taking time on a Wednesday night. What is the benefits of having gratitude? To learn and to practice gratitude. It's not going to happen overnight. You're not just going to get struck by the gratitude lightning bolt and you're going to be grateful for the rest of your life. It's something that you learn. You have to be disciplined at it. First of all, it improves health. 10% fewer stress-related illnesses in adults when they have gratitude. More physically fit. They sleep better at night. Youth and children, 13% fewer fights in kids when there's gratitude in the home. 20% more likely to get better grades. Now get this, 10 times less likely to start smoking as a teenager if they have gratitude. Grateful people on average give 20% more of their time and more of their money to charities and churches. Grateful people's income is roughly 7% higher. So if you'd like to have a 7% raise this year, start practicing gratitude according to the study. Gratitude can be a booster shot for marriages and relationships. Now, men, listen up. Some of you might be tuning me out because gratitude seems pretty boring. But it's not. It'll change your life. Here's the thing I didn't write in there, and it's not in your notes. But men, listen up. You can have a better love life if you had gratitude in your home. That was one of the results, a better love life. You don't have to raise your hand, but who would like to have a better love life? You're welcome. You're welcome. The Bible promises that seeing the good in our daily life leads to peace. That's another thing, another value. People were more peaceful that had gratitude in their lives. In the book of Philippians, in the Amplified version of the Bible, chapter 4, verses 8 through 9, it says, finally, believers, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is worthy of respect, whatever is right and confirmed by God's word, whatever is pure and wholesome, whatever is lovely and brings peace, whatever is admirable and good repute, if there's any excellent, if there's any worthy of praise, think continually, that's gratitude, think continually on these things, center your mind on them and implant them in your heart. The things you have learned and received and heard and seen in me, practice these things in daily life. And the God who is the source of peace and well-being will be with you. Woo! Gratitude, yeah. You can have the attitude of gratitude regardless of circumstances. Some of you might be thinking, man, if I just had another $50K in my bank, I would be grateful. Or if I had a bigger house or a bigger car or a faster car or more clothes or more shoes or a bigger yard to mow or a bigger mower, you know, if I get that 60-inch deck, man, I'd be a lot more grateful. Or if I have a better job or a better boss or a better coworker. But you can have the attitude of gratitude regardless of your circumstances. If you look in the book of Acts chapter 16, you'll read the story of Paul and Silas and their missionary journeys. And they were telling everybody about Jesus and they got arrested. And not only did they arrest them, they stripped them and they took wooden rods and beat the living fire out of them. And then they took them to the innermost part of the dungeon and put them in stocks. The Bible says around midnight, Paul and Silas were praying and singing hymns to God. And I love this. And other prisoners were listening. Who's listening to you when you get bumped in life? What overflows when you get bumped and bruised? What comes out of this thing? What's going on in here? Paul and Silas could pray and sing hymns of praise to God while in prison. Their attitude of gratitude wasn't impacted by their physical situation. It was based on their confidence in Jesus Christ. Because they knew who had already won. The worst thing that can happen is they die and go to heaven. You know what I'm saying? That is gratitude. Gratitude is the foundation for controlling so many parts of our lives. It is the key. It is the gauge. It is so important. And if we can teach this to our kids and our grandkids, it will change their lives. But here you go. You ready? Think of what gratitude would do if you explored it and started working on it and trying to get better at it. What it would do to your attitude. What would it do with your words coming out of your mouth? How about your manners? How about your actions? How about your work ethic, the effort you put into things? But we have to talk about this. There's a bunch of them, but we won't spend a lot of time. But there are some gratitude busters. And the first one is comparisons. Comparison sabotages two relationships, the one between you and God and the one between you and that other person. Do you compare yourself to people? Say, oh man, I could have sang that song better than Austin just sang it. Man, he was off. You know, I can play the guitar better than, Austin or Nick, or I can definitely play better than DJ on the bass. Good night. We compare. I can do better than that lady at work, or I'd be a better boss than that guy. And we're feeding this to our souls and to our minds and to our children. Comparison is a gratitude killer. It's a gratitude buster. The other one, there's many others, but the two we're going to talk about tonight is envy. A desire to have a quality, a possession, or an attribute belonging to someone else. Man, I wish I had that type of car. I wish I had that F-350 four-wheel drive King Ranch, brand new, $100,000. How can they have that house? We need a bigger house. How come that guy got a promotion? I should have got the promotion. Envy is a gratitude buster. It'll take your life down a road you don't want to go. You'll be the most unhappiest person on the planet. So how do we improve in the final minutes that we have here? How do we improve our gratitude in our life? Gratitude is a virtue that grows stronger, and I said that before with practice. In 1 Thessalonians 5:18, it says, in every situation, no matter what their circumstances, be thankful and continually gratitude. Give thanks to God, for this is the will of God for you in Christ Jesus. What would happen if you practice gratitude every day? Practice. Actually practice on being grateful. Have you ever thought about that? So how do we get better? I've been working on this since 1982. For me, it started there because all of a sudden I realized, I thought, man, I'm just flippant with my thank yous, and when's the last time I really have gone back and really was grateful? Really was grateful. Well, here we go. These are not in any particular order. Number one, experts say you can rewire your brain to be more grateful by simply recalling 3 things every day that you're grateful for 21 days, and then continue on after that. I don't know if I saw some of you men, you just checked out on me. Let me say it again. You can rewire your brain to be more grateful if every night, I do this every night before I go to bed, every night. I thank God for at least 3 people in my life or 3 situations every night before I go to bed. But once you get to that, you'd be surprised how much peace and contentment comes into your life. But you can rewire your brain if you do it. Think of 3 things, 21 days, and then continue on after that. Here's a big one. Write a letter of gratitude to someone who made a difference in your life, and if possible, read it to them in person. Men, are you listening? You want to give your wife an awesome present for Christmas? You write a 10-page letter on how much you think she is awesome. Huh, ladies? Can I get an amen? Yeah. And not only do you write it to her, you say, honey, would you come here in the room and can you just sit down right here on this chair? And order some flowers, light some candles, turn on some Barry White. I got something for you, honey. And be sincere and tell your wife how much you are grateful for her. Man, the one thing I'm grateful for my wife, and this will come up again probably, but it's all right if I skip, right? You guys don't know. You're not looking at the notes, hopefully. But here's the thing. One of the most things I'm grateful for my wife is every morning she gets out of bed. She's a morning person. I'm a night owl, and it works. But she'll get up at 6 o'clock in the morning, 6:30. I'll hear her get out. And she'll go to our living room, sit in a big comfortable chair, put a blanket on her, get her Bible, get her devotional materials, and she'll have her time with God. And even though I miss her I don't like waking up with her not there, I know she's praying for me when she's out there and she's praying for our grandkids and our kids. And I am grateful for that. I am grateful for that. In Philippians chapter 1, verse 3, it says, Paul says, every time I think of you, I give thanks to my God. There was a man I want to tell you about. His name was, we called him Coach Tom. I was born and raised in Colorado, and I was in junior high. And junior high in this particular town, Montrose, high school got so big that they took 9th grade and pushed them down to do junior high. So junior high was 7th, 8th, and 9th grade. And Mr. Tom was my athletic coach. He was my weightlifting coach, and he was my track coach. And also he was my PE teacher. And Mr. Tom was just a fabulous guy. He really was. And not only did he teach me a lot of things, but he would always tell me about my dad. Man, your dad is doing good things. Your dad is doing good things. My dad was a Baptist minister, grew up in a pastor's home. And he said, but Dan, you got to stand for what is right. He would tell me this all the time. I'd be weightlifting and all that stuff. And he said, Dan, you got to stand up. Don't follow the crowd. Be a leader. Be strong, say no when you're supposed to say no. You can do this. You can do this. You don't have to be like everybody else. And for 3 years, I heard that from Mr. Tom. This guy was a man's man. I mean, he hunt, fish, and get this, he ran a marathon that involved running up Pikes Peak and back down again. And at his age, he was like 40-something at the time, he got first place. And I asked him, what was the hardest thing? He said, coming down, because all that gravity's, pushing against you. But he was that type of guy. When I was in 9th grade, ready to go to high school then, we were finishing up. We always have the assembly at the end of the year like they usually do. And I'm sitting out there in the bleachers. All the kids are there. They're handing out awards for 4-H and all that stuff that they do. And the principal came up and said, well, we have one last award to give out for this year, and it's the Principal Award. And it's based on character, academics, leadership, yada, 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 yada. He went on. And he said, this year's recipient is Danny Kubish. I about lost my front teeth. I thought, what? And I walked down here. I have not taken this out of my drawer pretty much for 44 years. But this is the Principal Award. And my mom, they had my mom and dad come in. They didn't tell me. They were sitting in the audience. And it says, the selection of this student is made by the faculty based on leadership, academic achievement, character, and involvement. And my mom wrote, it's needless to say, we're very, very proud of Danny receiving this award. I never really, well, thank you. 44 years later, I don't think they clapped that day. But, as I grew up and I got married and met my wife, it was about 2010. We were celebrating our 25th wedding anniversary, I think. And I started to think about Mr. Tom, and I wanted to find him because I never really thanked him because besides my parents, a lot of this had to do with him. And so in 2010, I started social media, couldn't find him. Some people said, oh, he still lives there. No, I think he lives in Durango or Ouray or Telluride or wherever. And for 3 years, I was the worst detective because I could not find where he was. And in 2013, we were in Durango, Colorado. I was doing a Judgment House training. And I said, Debbie, I want to drive to Montrose and try to find, if he's there, I want to try to find him. And the way God worked it out through a few phone calls and whatever, we found that he still lived there. And I said, Debbie, I just want to drive up to his house and knock on the door. And so in 2013, June, I think I have a picture of it. Sam, if you can throw it, there it is. Now, you might say, Danny, you look a little different. Yes, I did. But that's Mr. Tom. The thing I didn't know about it, he was an artist. I said, why didn't you tell anybody you were an artist? Because he said, I didn't want to teach art kids, But he did all those beautiful pictures, and I got to knock on the door, met his wife, and I said, hey, I know you don't know me. My name is Danny Kubish. I grew up in your husband's classes, and I would really like to talk to him. And she said, oh, he's right here. And he came out of the basement, and I said, hey, Mr. Tom, do you recognize me? And he said, no. And I said, I'm Danny Kubish. He said, Danny Kubish. He said, how's your mom and dad doing? I said, oh, my dad just passed away just a few months ago. My mom is doing well. Man, your dad did good things. And I said, Mr. Tom, I just came by because I want to tell you thanks. When I got that award, I didn't thank you, and I knew then how much you had invested in me. But I just want to come back and tell you thanks. And so that's, I mean, it was such a relief to me, because for years I just had that build up of I wasn't grateful, and I wanted to show gratefulness. All right, number 3, keep a daily journal. You don't have to do this on this particular thing. Debbie and I have an app on our phone called Day One. There's a million apps you can use, but every day we write something in there. Now sometimes, and we post 10 pictures in there as well. So, you know, I usually post the pictures. Debbie usually does the writing because she's a much better writer than I am. Sometimes I write, but most of the time she does. But we put in there things that happen to us, blessings that God has blessed us with. I mean, whether it's salvation decisions at Judgment House, or how many people got saved at New Spring, or one of our kids decided to go public with their faith, and we keep track of that. And we have done that for years. Before we had the digital thing, Debbie used to write in just a normal notebook, and we just have stacks of notebooks in our house. And it is so fun to go back and remember, just like it says, you know, gratefulness is going back and remember the occurrences and the memories that are tied to that. And it is such a blessing. It is such a blessing. If you want to have a more blessed life, start keeping track of it. Because your brain gets old, like this 60-year-old person up here, and I cannot remember. I yelled through the house, Debbie, you know what we did back in 1977 on December 23rd? 15 people accepted Christ at New Spring Church, and we hired such and such a person, and we finally hit 1,000 kids in Kids World, or whatever it was. Man, what a blessing. What a blessing to have that. Number 4, initiate gratitude in your home and your workplace. Can you imagine if you took the charge in your house and said, we're going to start being more grateful? What would it do to your workplace? What if you went to work tomorrow and you told 10 people how grateful you were for them? Woo! We're not a very grateful nation anymore, are we? When's the last time you even heard that expression? We're just not. To our shame, we're not. Number 5, number 4. Parents and grandparents, we're still on 4. Parents and grandparents, the best thing you can do for your kids and grandkids is give them an example to follow. Kids catch more than what they're taught. They catch it. And chances are, if you are worried about your kids complaining all the time, chances are they're hearing mom and dad complaining about everything at the supper table. We need to teach our kids to be grateful. We need to have time. Even with my grandkids, we have a few grandkids at our house right now. We have the twins and Eugene because they're remodeling their house. And then now we have Lizzie and Samuel with us because Sarah and Jesse's on a trip with August down to Disney World. So we have a full house. But even with the grandkids, when we get them in bed, we tell them a story. Hey, what are we grateful for? What are we thankful for? You know, we just bring it up constantly. Number 5. Sorry. Who knows? We're on 5. Pray and thank God for the blessings on a daily life, on a daily basis. Now, there's a movie I love, and it's called White Christmas. Anybody seen that? Yeah. Yeah, it's really hot. It's really a popular movie at Christmas time. But I love it. And to me, if I had to summarize the story of White Christmas, it's all about gratitude. You have Danny Kaye and Bing Crosby, and what are they thankful for? Their commander that took care of them while they were in the Army, and now they're up at the lodge in Vermont, and there's no snow, and they want to come and say, we want to show you how grateful we are. But there's a scene in there where Rosemary Clooney can't sleep, you know, and there's a little spark going on in between them. And they go to the lodge, and he pulls out a jug of buttermilk and sandwiches. And he says, this always helps me to go to sleep. But you know it's a musical, so there's a song on the way. And he sings this song of when I'm worried and I can't sleep, I count my blessings instead of sheep, and I fall asleep counting my blessings. I love that. You need to do that. You'll have more peace in your life. Number 6, if you want more gratitude in your life, start serving others. Like I said in the results, 20% of more are done by people that are grateful, serving and giving. If you want to be grateful for your life, start serving people that are less fortunate than you or haven't crossed that line of faith. We have hundreds of volunteers that help us on the weekend, and you get to hear the stories of redemption, how people from a dark pit of hell has been rescued out, and you get to be a part of that, and you can serve them. You'll be grateful for the life that you have. You know, one of our candidates that we're in, I won't tell you what it was because it was just this last week. I always stand in the baptistry and, hey, you got family here? Yeah, I got family here. Wow, it's 7:30, Debbie. What are we doing? We practiced this. It wasn't this long. And we're up there in the baptistry, and this person says to me, well, I haven't seen my video. And I said, oh, I've seen it. It's great. And she said, well, I just know I don't have a big story like I was on drugs or, I didn't live a life that, I just grew up in a home that taught me how to love God, and I accepted Christ, and ta-da. And I said, you got to be grateful for that. You don't have to have a remarkable story for God to use you. Thank God that you didn't have to go through all those terrible things that other people have gone through. Praise the Lord for that. Don't apologize. But we get to be a part of that when we serve others. Last thing, and I'm going to go very quickly. We got to worship the God that created us. I told you that during the thing. Tell him how grateful you are. When we sing, we're going to sing a song at the end, by the way, so just get your lungs queued up, all right? When you practice gratitude every day, it will change your life. Now, I want to show you a picture of my mom and dad, because I can't talk about gratitude without talking about them. They were almost married for 60 years. My dad was a Baptist minister. They had 4 kids, 4 girls in Chicago, Illinois, and then they moved to Colorado and had 4 boys. Must have been the altitude, But man, the most I've ever learned about gratitude is from those 2 people right there. My dad was the most gracious person I've ever met in my life. He would just thank everybody. I remember one time he got called to a church, and you said, the kid man, he said, you know why we called you out of all the pastors we could have called? Is because when you were on the stage, and my dad had a beautiful voice. He had a golden voice, sang with Cliff Barrows on the Billy Graham Crusade, and he had a beautiful voice, and he would always need a piano player to play with him. And he would, when he candidated at this church, they wanted him to sing. And he sang, and after he got done, before he started the message, he turned over to the lady playing the piano, just like Miss Carla. Hi, Carla. And said, thank you for playing me. Thank you for playing me for today. I really appreciate that. That is what my dad got that job. Over one simple thank you up on the stage made the difference. But my mom and dad served the Lord. My dad passed away in 2012 in April. He passed away one day before my daughter Sarah got married. And my mom came to the Friday. He passed away on a Thursday. My mom came to the wedding. But they served the Lord. They were almost married 59 years. Just gracious people. And they were in a church before they came to the one. They were out at Central Baptist Church here in Augusta for many, many years before my dad retired. And they were in a church in Nebraska. And, sometimes when churches they get their eyes off Jesus and they're not very grateful, they start nitpicking at stuff. My dad didn't really do anything wrong. There was no moral failure or anything like that. But it was like, oh, you didn't go and see my mother in the hospital as many times as you did that person. And, we don't, like the songs we're singing. It was silly stuff like that. But my dad knew he was called to that church. And he was going to stay there until God called him someplace else. And it got to the point where they told my dad, hey, we'll let you stay. We'll even pay you. We just don't want you to preach. And my dad would just whistle through the church, still minister to people, still love on people, because he was grateful for the ministry God had given them. And so it was on this particular Sunday. My mom was telling the story, and I didn't know this story until I got ordained in April with Jesse and Daniel. My mom sat behind me right where Mr. Hopper is sitting right now. And I could hear her get emotional during some of the music, and she told me this story afterwards. I have never heard it all the years I've been in her house. But it was one of those Sundays where things were going rough, that right before they were ready to walk out of the house, they got a phone call from a church in Augusta, Kansas, and said, "Hey, we've heard about you. We want to know if you would come and candidate for us." They didn't seek it out. It was just a God thing. And so my mom and dad went to church, and my mom sang in the choir, and they walked out on stage, and the song they sang was "The Longer I Serve Him." The words are, "Since I started for the kingdom, since my life He controls, since I gave my heart to Jesus, the longer I serve Him, the sweeter He grows." The chorus is, "The longer I serve Him, the sweeter He grows. The more that I love Him, more love He bestows. Each day is like heaven, my heart overflows." That's gratitude. The longer I serve Him, the sweeter He grows. Verse 2 says, "Every need He is supplying, plenteous grace He bestows. Every day my way gets brighter. The longer I serve Him, the sweeter He grows." And so my mom was standing up in that choir loft singing that with tears running down her face. And people were thinking, "Oh, she's just mad that we're not letting her dad or her husband preach." But it wasn't that. It was a heart full of gratitude that she knew God will continue to take care of them if we have that heart. And so I asked Austin, now I asked Miss Carla, she's going to sing. That's going to be amazing, isn't it? Yeah. And I asked Austin, come on, Austin. I asked these guys just Tuesday morning. I said, "Man, I know you sang this song for my ordination, but I'd like the congregation to sing it with you. And I would like Carla to sing some of it because Carla has been around for a while. She's mature. Right, Carla?"
Not too mature.
Not too mature. But she's seen a lot of things as well in her life. And so we're going to sing this. And I'd like for you to stand. And Austin's going to lead us. And then I'm going to come back and pray for you, that God will help you to be grateful. So would you stand with us, Austin?
Many of you don't know this, but Dan oversees our worship department. And so I get to work with Dan very closely. He's my supervisor. And Dan, before you walk off the stage, I know you're coming back, I'm grateful for you. And it's not just what you do for me personally. This guy's the real deal. He's the real deal, y'all. It's what he does for our families and our marriages and bringing this word tonight. I'm grateful for you, and I'm grateful for your parents, and I'm grateful for the people that God sent your way to put them in your life to prepare us to receive this message tonight. I gotta tell you, I'm ready to sing this song. And I want you guys to sing this with us. And since I started for the kingdom, since my life He controls, and since I gave my heart to Jesus, the longer I serve Him, the sweeter He grows. Yes. Oh, the longer I serve Him, the sweeter
every day my way gets brighter, the longer I serve him, the sweeter he grows. The longer I serve him, the sweeter he grows. The more that I love him, more love he bestows. Each day is like heaven, my heart overflows. The longer I serve him, the sweeter he grows.
Well, sorry, 11 minutes over. Too much gratitude. But before we go, in all seriousness, I pray that you will take this to heart and that it will change your life if you allow it to. It'll change your families. But I'd like for you to bow your heads and close your eyes. And if you're in this room and you said, man, Dan, I just need help. Can you just pray for me that I can be more grateful? And I got my hand up as well. But if there's someone in the room that you can say, hey, would you just pray for me, allow me to be more grateful? I want to try this. Yes, I see all across the room. Yes. I just want to be more grateful. I want to honor God, and I want to be thankful for the blessings. And you pray for me, and I'm going to pray for you. Father God, we thank you for tonight. We thank you for our worship team. We thank you for your blessings. We are so grateful for your Son, Jesus Christ, that he gave his life for our sins and that we can have a home in heaven based on what he has done. And we thank you for that. And I just pray for every family represented here tonight across the room, every dad, every mom, every brother and sister, aunt and uncle, grandma and grandpa, that you would allow us to understand how important gratitude is. And that we will show gratitude to our friends and to our neighbors and to our husbands and our wives and our coworkers and our bosses, and we'll bring our best to you, and we'll have great attitudes and great manners and a work ethic, and we'll do the things that you would cause us to bring glory to you. Allow us to do this. Let us not just forget and walk out those doors, but let us remember that we need to be grateful, because ultimately you gave the ultimate gift through your Son, Jesus Christ. And if that was the only thing you ever did for us, that would be more than we ever can imagine, and that's what we can be grateful for. Thank you for this time. Thank you for what you have done for us. We love you. In your name we pray. Amen. Well, thank you for being here. Mark will be back Sunday with another sermon in Going Pro. Don't forget to order your t-shirts, and if you can pick up those signs right out there, Miss Debbie's out there in the main foyer, or go to the store and order your shirts, we would appreciate it. Thanks so much. Thanks for being here.